Welcome to today's episode of Speak Up with Laurel Libby. On today's episode, I'm glad to welcome my friend Libby Fotter. Libby and I share a lot of things in common, including, of course, a name, but also the fact that we have a bunch of kids each, and we live in the same town, and we both have kind of crazy lives due to said kids. So I'm thrilled to welcome Libby here today. Libby, unlike me, you're not in the legislature. I represent you. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. But first, let's let folks know a little bit more about Libby and Libby. Tell us about your crazy life and your kids and et cetera.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I have been married for almost 13 years, and I have 4 daughters.
It's a lot of estrogen, Libby.
Yes, but it's a lot of fun. A lot of dolls, a lot of makeup, a lot of fun. And we homeschool, so we're together all the time. And we're very active in our church.
Which is one of the places I know you from.
Yeah.
Is from church and small group and mom's group and all the things as our kids.
I think that's where we really met, mom's group.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a marker for when one of my kids was born and when we all met and started going to mom's group. And so you've watched my kids and I've watched your kids growing up, which is pretty crazy. I have teenagers now who were really small when we first met.
Very small.
Yeah. So you're not involved in politics.
I'm not.
At all.
At all.
And so we're often talking politics, though, and you have a lot of questions.
I have a lot of questions. It's a lot that I don't understand, so.
That's why we wanted to get together and do this segment, talk about what goes on, what questions you have. And so let's dive right in.
Great. Tell me what the legislature is made up of.
Okay, I feel like this is good timing because we just did a Government 101 class last night.
Okay.
And so this is like exactly what we covered. So the legislature is the House and the Senate. And you know I'm in the House. I'm your representative.
Yes, thank you.
And so you have these 2 bodies. It's the legislative branch of government of the 3 branches, executive, legislative, and judicial. And we have 151 representatives, 35 senators.
For just Maine.
For just Maine.
Yeah.
Yes, Maine, 1.3 million people, 151 representatives, which is a pretty large number.
Yeah.
New Hampshire has 400.
Wow. What's their population? Do you know?
It is very similar to Maine's.
Really?
Yeah. So we think we have a lot of reps, and we do compared to some other states, but New Hampshire just blows us all out of the water.
How do you decide how many reps to have? What is that based off of?
It is written into the Constitution, so this is decided when the states were formed, when the Maine Constitution was written, that number, 151, is what they decided Maine needed.
Interesting.
Yeah. So at this point, we each represent about 8,500 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And New Hampshire, I haven't done the math, but like think about how small those districts are.
Right. Wow.
It's like the size of a postage stamp.
However, that's like a significant difference in voting power.
Yes. Oh, I mean, you think about like how impactful your vote is in a state like Maine.
Yeah.
Where you're only representing about 8,500 individuals. House districts get decided by 1 vote, 7 votes. And New Hampshire, yeah, it's even smaller numbers. It's kind of wild.
That is crazy.
So 35 senators, 151 state reps, and we just wrapped up. So we're done with session for the year.
So you don't have any more tasks at all?
Well, I think a representative's work is never done.
Okay. So tell me what else you would be doing until you're truly done.
Well, mainly constituent work. You know, people email and say, hey, I have an issue with Department of Transportation. Like I need a speed bump on my road. That is a request that I've gotten a number of times. I need a speed bump on my road. Yes. Somebody requested one on Park Ave, actually. It has not happened, but that is a relatively speaking frequent request. But people have concerns about medical costs or their school or what they reach out for all kinds of different reasons. And so you point them to the correct resources.
Okay.
That's ongoing, whether we're in session or not.
Okay. So if I wanted a speed bump on my road and I emailed you, where would you send me to? I guess I would never have thought to go to you on that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I most often refer people to is that I'm not an attorney,
Oh,
and that
okay.
for whatever issue you bring up, you should see an attorney.
Okay.
So, but as far as the speed bump goes, I would send that request to the Department of Transportation. And I can tell you that none of the people who have asked for a speed bump have qualified.
Okay.
So none of those have actually happened.
Interesting. So there's very strict rules.
There
for
are
sure.
very strict rules. Yes. Anytime somebody emails or calls and they want their speed limit changed or a speed bump added, it is unlikely to happen because there are very strict parameters.
Is that related to laws that have already been put in place?
Yeah, laws and then
Just
rules,
rules.
As far as where those are required for safety.
Mm-hmm.
On my own street, there was a request for a red blinking light. I think in the 1960s.
No.
Yes, and it was just installed, deemed worthy, and installed within the last 10 years.
Right. And so was that a situation where because the people who lived nearby had recordings of the accidents and people
Yes.
did that help? Is that
It did help.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Citizen activism right there.
Yeah.
I mean, the laws covered it, and
Okay.
so then citizens got active, and then the red light happened.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the laws that either passed or didn't pass, or tell me a little bit about the laws, because that was what you guys were doing, or the bills, right? The bills that you guys were
Yeah.
dealing with.
We had about 2,000 or 2,200 bills that came before us this term, which is
So
different from session.
that means 2,200 potential laws, new
Yes.
laws.
Yes.
Wow, that's wild.
It is wild. And, last year, the year before, so my second term, the salary for legislators was raised. And I advocated at the time that rather than raising salary, we should simply work less, meaning less bills submitted, less bills processed, less bills infringing on Mainers' rights at the end of the day, or increasing taxes, et cetera. If we are in session for less time, that's less time for Mainers to be harmed by the laws that are passed.
And then
In my
essentially
opinion.
would have to, so what would I guess I'm a little confused. What would that have
Yeah.
to do? How would that improve the reason for them wanting to increase the pay?
There are bills put forward for all kinds of reasons. And if there was some sort of cap on how many could actually be processed, like how many are really worthy of coming forward, because there is only so much time. It's a citizen legislature. We're in session January through June in the first session of our term, 2-year term. And then we're in session January through April of the second session.
Okay.
And so we're processing these over 2,000 bills in a very short time frame. Some of them are advanced for political reasons. Some of them are duplicative. And, with communication, they don't really all have to be submitted because there's multiple on the same topic. There's all kinds of reasons. Some are unconstitutional, like the ranked choice vote bill that Augusta Democrats tried to push through this past session. So there's all kinds of reasons that we could pare down the number of bills that are handled in Augusta, and that would make Mainers better off in the long run. Like, let's pass less regulations. Let's not be processing 2,200 bills that in one way or another most infringe on something. These are not all related to criminal activity. This is bills that are, many of them, restrictive and harmful. So if we process less of them, Mainers would be better off.
Yeah, that's good.
So I advocate for, shorter session, less bills, capping the number of bills. There were legislators who submitted 70 bills.
Wow.
It's just kind of crazy, the volume that we see.
How was that received?
Well, it wasn't received well. My idea wasn't the one that prevailed in the end, but we are a citizen legislature, and yet I think citizens can't really keep up with what we're doing in Augusta because there's just so much going on.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, how do you follow it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, how many bills did you hear about this last?
Only the big ones, right?
Right?
Yeah, that's interesting. When there's a bill submitted or you are all discussing a bill that's redundant, is that obvious and it's just kind of like thrown out?
Yeah, it's not automatically thrown out.
Okay.
Sometimes legislators do get together after the fact and kind of combine them. That can happen.
Okay.
But oftentimes there's a public hearing for 4 bills if they're similar or the same. Those happen at the same time, and then there's separate votes on each of those bills. And so that's where, with a little talking to each other and coordination, maybe you could have 1 instead of 4. But for multiple reasons, that doesn't typically happen.
Are there bills that get passed into law where there's already a law that says that? Like, can that happen?
There's usually research done. So the office that writes the bills, let's say I have an idea for a bill. I've had many ideas for bills. Let's say I have an idea for healthcare price transparency. That's a bill that I put forward previously. I would communicate to the revisor's office before the deadline for bills and say, I want to submit this bill. I want it to be around healthcare price transparency so that Maine has to abide by the federal rules. And if we don't, then the consumer, like you know, if you had gone to a hospital and they hadn't followed the transparency rules, you would be able to take action. I want Maine citizens to be able to take action and say, have recourse if these rules aren't followed. So the revisor's office would then research and figure out where the law is on that issue right now, and then they would craft the bill that I want to put forward, bearing in mind current law and crafting it so that it would amend current law if passed.
Okay. That seems like a really hard position because you have to be bipartisan.
Yeah, the revisor's office, the office that writes the legislation, is supposed to be nonpartisan, and they do have to consider current law. So those 2,000 bills, those 2,200 bills, those all, even if a legislator brings model legislation, so that's legislation that's already kind of written, it has to be rewritten based on Maine laws, like it has to be customized to Maine laws. And so all of those 2,000 plus bills have to come through the revisor's office, be written or rewritten by that office. It's an immense amount of work.
I would
So
imagine.
if you think about every one of those bills is a lot of cost to the Maine taxpayer because of all of the offices that are involved with writing and processing these bills.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that you want your bill written in a way that's appealing, right, to the voters, or is it very basic?
I mean, it's very factual.
Okay.
Like
That's reassuring.
It sticks to the facts. Now, some bills are more appealing to the voters than others.
Right.
Some are more appealing to some voters than others.
Sure.
Depending on the concept that is included there. The messaging really happens by whoever's advancing the bill or the party,
Okay.
or
They can speak on the behalf of
exactly.
it. Okay.
Yes.
Elaborate.
Yes.
Okay.
Here's what it does and here's why you should support it.
So when we vote and there's like questions on the ballot, it's not like that where it's like confusing and misleading sometimes. So it's not like that. It's very clear. Like, this is what we want for a potential law, and these are the facts.
Theoretically, it's clear.
Okay.
But it's also technical because it is changing law. And so you can have a really long bill.
Okay.
If we dive into the budget, that's like 300 pages. Most bills are not that long. Most bills are 1 to 13 pages or 15 pages. Or, they're not like bills at the federal level where we're talking about thousands of pages, fortunately.
Right.
But one insider trick that I always do, and I learned this my very first session, is from reading a bill, unlike when you're reading a novel or something, skip forward to the end because the end has a summary of the bill. And so if you read that summary, if it's a long bill, it will have, multiple points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will outline exactly what the bill does. And then you can go back through and read the full bill to get the whole rundown. But you're starting with kind of that basic knowledge of what the summary says the bill does.
That's great.
And that's the kind of cheat.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. I wish that the questions on the ballots were like that.
Here's the explainer for the ballot question.
Right.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be written clearly. I mean, there is Maine law that says that the questions must be written clearly. There's specific statute around how they have to be written. And that is because the questions were confusing and intentionally so. Unfortunately, I don't think that statute is being followed.
Yeah, when did
As
that
it should
take
be.
place?
Multiple years ago.
I don't
Prior
remember
to the last couple years.
Right. That's interesting because
Mhm.
I feel like even the most recent, it was very misleading if you hadn't done your own research.
Yeah, I mean, look at just the last 3. We have girls' sports. That question was written in I think, less confusing, but also less factual to what the proposed bill would actually do, and uses the word gender instead of sex, which appears nowhere in the proposed legislation.
Interesting.
So obviously, to me, very intentionally misleading. And then when you look back to 2025, you have voter ID and the red flag referendum, both of which were written, those questions for the ballot were written in ways that were obviously intended to get a certain outcome, which it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I specifically remember the voter ID
Mm-hmm.
being very misleading from what I knew the bill to be.
I agree. I don't think that Mainers actually voted on voter ID. And I was talking about that with someone recently. Mainers voted on the question of absentee voting and if it should be allowed, because that was the messaging that was put out there. That was what the question indicated that it was, that absentee voting was under attack.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what Mainers voted on.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when Mainers have the opportunity to vote on voter ID, period, they'll vote for it.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. I didn't really talk about ID at all in the question.
No, I don't remember the exact wording off the top of my head, but it did not simply ask if voters support a photo voter ID.
Yeah.
No.
I remember reading something along the lines of making it impossible or harder for elderly to vote. And
Yes.
I was thinking, that's so confusing. That's not what I thought we were voting on. You know?
And years prior to that ballot question being written, statute was changed and says that these questions have to be written in a way that is understandable and clear, et cetera. And unfortunately, we have a partisan Secretary of State that was elected by the legislature, by the majority party in the legislature, and so is not nonpartisan, is very partisan.
Is that a nonpartisan position?
It should be. Yes, it is.
I didn't know that.
But we have a Secretary of State who absolutely has just weaponized her position and used it for political gain and political means, and the ballot questions fall under that umbrella.
100% thought that was a partisan position.
So other states do hold elections. Like last night, there were primaries in a couple states, and that included for Attorney General, Secretary of State, et cetera.
Okay.
Not Maine. In Maine, those positions are decided by the legislature.
Okay.
So it's essentially, you're a shoo-in as a member of the majority party for that position. And so that's why we've had very partisan actors in those positions. Shanna Bellows in Secretary of State. We've seen the same in the Attorney General position.
Okay.
And of course, Governor Mills was our Attorney General previously. And so there was a lot of conflict there when LePage was governor, because you had this very partisan Attorney General, Mills, kind of butting heads with LePage. It's hard to get things done.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't realize all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So should there be a bill submitted that it's not chosen by the legislature?
Yes, there should be. And there have been multiple. So these are our constitutional officers, Secretary of State, our Treasurer, and our Attorney General, all decided by the legislature. And that is their constitutional officers. That's how this was written into the Constitution, how they would be decided. And so if we want to change that, then we have to pass a constitutional amendment.
Oh, is that hard?
It is hard.
It sounds hard.
It is hard. It's a really high bar. You have to get 2/3 of the legislature to support that bill first, and then it has to pass a majority vote of the people on the ballot.
So I imagine to get 2/3 is nearly impossible with the current makeup.
Very, very challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a constitutional amendment pass the right to food.
The right to what?
The right to food, the right to grow, produce, harvest your own food. That passed, but that was a huge effort on the part of that bill sponsor and others who supported it. And so a constitutional amendment that changes the election of our constitutional officers to an election by the people, which is how it should be, in my opinion.
Right.
I think they should be elected by the people, is a huge lift. I did have one of my fellow Democrat members of the House ask me, he was going to put forward that bill. He did put forward that bill. And he said, would you support it? I said, what else are you including in this bill? Adam Lee from Auburn. And there's a poison pill. And that poison pill is that the election would be by the people, ranked choice vote. And I'm never going to support putting ranked choice vote in the Constitution.
Okay. And tell me why. What is the disadvantage of ranked choice voting?
Well, ranked choice voting goes against the principle of one person, one vote.
Okay.
And by virtue of you're ranking your vote, you're ranking multiple, and it's very confusing for people. It is this year, I don't think I've had more questions on any topic than I have had on ranked choice voting.
Interesting.
It's very confusing for people, and when people are confused and have that many questions on a method of voting, it's disenfranchising, and it makes people reluctant to vote because they're intimidated and confused. And I think we should be doing everything we can to encourage people to vote and to know that their vote counts. And so I certainly, as much as I would love for our constitutional officers to be elected by the people, I would never do it with a bill that would say, and we're going to choose them by ranked choice vote.
Yeah.
Especially because that bill, as written, would have then enshrined ranked choice voting in our Constitution. Yeah. And if you think it's tough to pass a constitutional amendment, try repealing a piece of the Constitution.
Oh, interesting.
So, no go for
and
me.
No, so was that just experience from other bills that they've wanted you to support, knowing there was like a catch?
Yeah, they want to see, can we get Republicans on board this idea of expanding ranked choice voting by offering something they really want?
Okay.
Like, if you can get X by compromising on Y, and I don't support the idea that we can make a bad bill better by throwing in some good things.
Just separate them.
Just separate them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of this horse trading that goes on in Augusta.
Okay.
Where, will you support this if I change this and I amend this and I'll make this a little better? And a bad bill is a bad bill, and it's rare that you can amend a bad bill out of being not good for Maine people. And that's an example. Like, there's not really anything you could offer me that I would say, oh, well, okay, I think adding ranked choice vote to our Constitution sounds like a good idea because I can get this. No, it's never going to be a good idea, and I would never compromise for that.
The other thing that's interesting with that, specifically that, is that I imagine people have been caught in situations where they have spoken on a topic in a certain way, but then it seems so appealing, right, to support this because it's kind of what you want.
Mm-hmm.
But then if anyone is aware or paying attention and they do support the bill, it goes against something they just said. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe one of the clearest examples of like kind of that what can make a bad bill good in some people's mind would be bonds. So this year we had a number of bonds that came before the legislature, and I voted for 0 of them. Just spoiler alert.
They always pass.
They always pass. And bonds have to get 2/3 support in the legislature to move forward to a vote of Maine people. And so if we can maintain enough people, enough legislators voting against the bonds, then they just won't even move forward for a vote. And so there were a number of bonds. One of them was to do with transportation and infrastructure. And my stance on bonds is no, period, anyway. But to add insult to injury, this is infrastructure. Like, this is core. If you're going to tax Maine people and make them pay for stuff, that's kind of what they should be paying for, right? Not like extra government giveaway programs or like energy rebates, et cetera. Like core function, infrastructure, roads, bridges, that's the thing that makes the most sense.
And I think
to
that's
spend
what
tax dollars on.
That's what we think of
Right?
when we're paying our taxes.
Absolutely. Well, in this case, Augusta Democrats went like, okay, all of the money is spent. We have allocated it to all of the programs that we want. And so now we're going to say, Mainers, we need this infrastructure. So can we take out a loan? And my answer was no. And enough people's answer was no that it just did not go anywhere. It did not pass. And if we're going to put money into infrastructure, it should be right out of the gate. This should be the first line item in the budget, right? Because we need safe roads and bridges for Mainers to drive on. Another bond was regarding farming, okay? And so this bond, it got more support. It didn't get enough, but it was like the bill that would never die because we have a lot of representatives on the Republican side of things that live in rural areas that represent farmers. And most of them still did not vote for this bond. But some of them did. And you understand why, right? Because they're representing farmers, they're representing rural areas. Even though if this money was necessary, we should have paid for it out of the budget and not allocated it to other things and all of the pet projects that the Democrats supported. I still can see why some of my colleagues felt like, oh, I should support this because it's for the farmers. Now, in my opinion, the fact that it's for the farmers didn't make it better. It still was money allocated inappropriately, right? Because it should have been paid for in the budget if it was necessary and not asking Maine people to borrow it. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, it didn't pass. So I'm thankful it's not going to be on the ballot. But I guess that's a long-winded example of why some people might think that a bad bill is worth supporting.
Yeah.
Because it contains something that they like or that would benefit their constituents.
Right. What is the worst bill that became law this session?
This session? Oh, goodness. I feel like there's a whole list. But I would say one of the worst is the millionaire tax. And I think that's really an unfortunate name. You know, we all kind of nicknamed it, and we've been calling it the millionaire tax. But this is a tax that's going to hit the entire state of Maine.
Can you tell me why?
Yeah. So our income tax, our highest bracket income tax rate is 7.35% at this point. Our laws will go into effect the end of July. So at this current moment, even though this bill passed, that is our highest tax bracket. And Maine is one of the 5 highest tax states in the entire nation. Okay, so we are right up there with New York, Hawaii, California, and Illinois.
Wow.
And Maine, as far as the highest tax states in the country. However, all of the money pulled in through taxing Maine people was still not enough for Augusta Democrats to pay for all the things that they want to have. And so even though they've increased spending from $7 billion to $12 billion, they still want more money. They still want more taxes to spend on more things. And so they decided that this new tax was necessary to raise taxes on the highest earners by 2%. So that highest tax rate essentially is now over 9%.
Yeah, wow.
And if you think about who those high earners are, these are entrepreneurs, business owners, successful people who are bringing their skills and their businesses, their energy to our state. They're providing employment for others. Our state is benefiting in so many ways from these individuals.
Even them as consumers.
Absolutely, them as consumers. They're spending their money here.
Right.
And so when we add yet another tax, and we're already one of the highest tax states in the nation, these folks are going to start saying, why am I here?
Yeah.
And some of them already have a second home elsewhere. So why am I here more than 6 months? Maybe I should, leave Maine for a majority of the year, take my business elsewhere, New Hampshire, no income tax. Their economy is booming. Businesses are flooding into New Hampshire because they don't have the high taxes that we have here in Maine. And so when even a fraction of these people now paying this higher tax leave our state, our entire economy, our entire population is going to suffer as a result. And so I really think that is the worst bill. Ask me another day, I might give you a different answer. But I think that is the worst bill that we saw this session that was enacted, because it's going to have such profound effects on our entire state, on our economy, and on our long-term outlook.
Yikes. I wish there was a bill that would pass that said for every bill that gets into law, 2 are removed.
I think that would be the best bill we could pass.
I guess, how do you decide which ones? That would be tricky,
I don't know.
but-
I mean, or even like for every new law passed, 10 get repealed.
Yeah,
but I would
great.
take 2. I would take 2.
Right. I feel like you came up with that a while ago. and
I did.
That's the best.
It's my favorite bill idea. I never did submit it because for multiple reasons.
Sure.
That's a bill you wait to be in the majority for.
Yeah.
Because it's not going anywhere prior.
How many bills do we have, or laws do we have in the state of Maine?
Oh gosh, I don't have any idea. I
mean,
feel like that's. Hey,
gonna
we're
be
gonna break the
ridiculous.
fourth wall here. Nick, do we have any idea how many laws we have on the books? Nope, we don't. No, thousands and
I mean,
thousands.
how do you even keep track of that? How does someone actually keep track of that?
I think that's a question for the law library.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to ask them that.
It's not like police officers can know every single law, but I guess they don't need to know all laws.
Well, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, there are so many laws on the books that you can't possibly keep track of them all. And
There must be categories.
we could be breaking the law every day here, Libby.
Right.
Doing something that was passed in 1930.
Right?
Right, and we have no idea. I mean, there are all kinds of archaic laws on the books. You hear about other states. I haven't looked into some of those, arcane laws in Maine, but there are all kinds of kind of leftovers that you hear about that are obviously, like, no one is prosecuting these laws that remain on the books. But I am curious. You got me
That
curious
would be
now about
fun.
what remains on the books here in Maine.
That would be fun to do a deep dive into archaic laws. See if they're even relevant,
Right, right.
But you can't just take it away. It has to be voted on, right?
Yes.
It's not like you can just take it away.
Yeah,
even
unless
if it's
there's-
completely irrelevant.
Unless there was some sort of sunset built into it. Like, that's the only
Oh.
way automatically, it would automatically pass out of law. So there are laws that are passed that say, unless this sunset is extended, this will no longer be law as of this date.
Can you give me an example of why that would happen?
Well, for example, there was a bill to ban data centers, and that was to be in effect for 18 months. If I'm remembering all the details correctly, that was to be in effect for 18 months while Maine looked at, should we ban this long term? Should we? And one of my concerns with that bill and with a wholesale statewide ban on data centers is A, it should be local control, in my opinion. And B, that sunset would be really easy to extend. So all you need to extend that is a bill that says extend the sunset or get rid of the sunset and it's permanent, et cetera. Those types of amendments, tweaks to the law and changes of deadlines are typically easier to pass than the original law in the first place.
Okay.
But I don't think, many of those archaic laws we're talking about probably have those types of sunsets.
Right.
Another project for another day.
Right. That'd be interesting.
But 2,200 plus bills are done. We have wrapped up the session. So first session was done. Now we've finished the second session as of the end of April. And so we are done. Maine people are safe from any further action by the legislature.
That must feel really good.
It does.
And now you can enjoy your summer. You just celebrated a birthday.
I did.
Yes. And what was your favorite birthday wish?
Oh, gosh. Well, I got text. Okay, so one of my teenagers drives the kids to school now. And so when they get to school, they let me know that they're there safely. And on my birthday, I got a text from one of my teenagers. And one of them sent me a very normal, loving text, which read, I'll read it to you because I will not get the words right if I don't. One of them said, "Happy birthday, Mom. I love you. Have a great day with your friends." And then the other child said, "Sup, girly pop. Have fun today." And then signed their name, the goat. The goat. I've never heard the word
of all time.
girly pop used before, and I've certainly never heard it in place of my name, Mom.
So your teenager doesn't typically call you that?
No.
Just on the special occasion.
Just on the special occasion of my birthday. Right. Thank you very much.
Very sweet.
Yeah. No, we're excited. The school's almost done for the year, and summer is coming. I've had my first trip to the beach. Now the rest of the family needs to catch up. Nice. So we're excited for some low-key times, and I'm excited for Maine people not to have any more burdens put on them by the legislature for this year. Until January.
Great.
Respite.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for coming on Speak Up with Laurel Libby, Libby Fotter. Thanks for tuning in to Speak Up with Laurel Libby. You don't want to miss a single episode, so make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, so you don't miss a single one. And we will see you again next time.